Okay. We are done 5 of 6, and we have finally arrived at our final album of the night. I think I have the first take on it, but Matt's gonna run the numbers for us first.
All right, so Julie Cruise, Floating into the Night, comes in at number 204 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums. Our highest rated album of the evening from Best Ever Albums comes in at number 17 in 1989, number 1,270 of all time. It is Julie Cruise's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. Not making Rolling Stone's list, but she is ranked at number 1,033 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums.
Okay, well, and let's just go ahead and put the white elephant in the room about this. It is very difficult if you've gone into the world of David Lynch to not tie in Julie Cruise to Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks because
Yep.
literally you have an instrumental of Falling is the theme song of Twin Peaks, and there are, I sent a clip to the guys today of the clip where Laura Palmer's cousin, I think her name was Maddie, right, dies. And sorry if I'm ruining spoilers for you from 35 years ago. You should go watch the show in entirety. But when
Yes.
she dies, and they play another song, and then Blue Velvet, obviously, famously has one of the songs on this album on it as well. So it transcends that, by the way, this album. But I do want to say that I think it's impossible if you're familiar with those landscapes that you will not, to some degree, tie her in all the way down
Yeah.
to the fact that she was, singing in the bar, right? Like the
Right.
lounge and the bar, like at different points of the 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 show, right? The original Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
and actually, I think she was in the Return too one time shortly before she
Yes, I
died,
think
right?
so.
If I remember
So
correctly,
is Trent
because they'd
Reznor
always
too,
end
for
with
the
a
record.
singer.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and like the Chromatics and like all
Yeah.
kinds of people were in it,
Yeah.
but like I just do remember she showed up in it as well. So we'll put that out there. I love this album. I really really love this album. It's so beautiful and creepy and eerie at the same time. It's in that sense, it's kind of like what goth always shoots for, like the romantic and the beautiful juxtaposed with like the morose kind of. It's like somehow so pretty to the ear yet makes you uneasy, which is why it was so perfect for like David
Yeah.
Lynch's world, because that's the aesthetic he shoots for like all the time. She has a beautiful voice. It's got certainly dream pop, right? Like all over this. And one of the things I noticed with a lot of like dream pop, and even people that have dream pop elements mixed with the noise rock that we've covered, like Cocteau Twins, and later like the Ravenettes, right? Like are a band that come to mind and stuff like that. It's like always like a nostalgic like 50s and 60s rock sound with like the dream pop sound. And there's like a baroqueness to it as well. And kind of it all comes together into like a sound that just this is such a beautiful night album. It's just an album that you just put on
Definitely.
and it just washes over you, and it like crawls inside me. This sound, the mix of her voice and the mix of the sonic landscape. And one of the big things I wanted to do was I wanted to listen to this album divorced from the preconceived notion of these songs like in the David Lynch world, because I'm a fan of his work. So I didn't want that to bias it. So I'm like, I really want to detach and listen to these songs just as pieces of art. And in that end of things, the other thing that stands out to me is how well this translates into 2022. There's like or 20, excuse me, 2023. We're in 2023, like well into it. So I don't know where that came from. But there's like a timeless quality to this that it somehow sounds old, but also sounds like it could be relevant right now. And I feel like it will always be the case. There's just always something about this that carries like an emotional resonance for me. And it always seems like it's the right landscape or era to listen to this music. It's atmospheric, so I would definitely say you should. It's one you don't want to put on while doing other stuff because you'll either not connect with it or just a lot will float by you. You kind of really have to be still and or focused on it to get the most out of this album. I enjoyed listening to this on headphones, but it's the rare album that's like that I don't think you need to listen to on headphones. I just think you need a quiet space where you commune sort of individually with the music, if that makes sense. For me, this is not collective music. Like I want to listen to this one on one. And in that sense, there's other albums we've covered that are like this. I always use the Donald Fagen album, the Nightfly, like that. I always use the Scott Walker album, Scott 4, as that. Those are albums that sort of had the same feel in terms of how I wanted to listen to it. But sonically, this most lines up with dream pop. So we're talking, Cocteau Twins comes to mind immediately, but this isn't as abrasive as that is, right? And it just was a really fun listen for me, on a number of levels, and strong thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed this album a lot.
Yeah, like John said, it's this is inextricably linked to David Lynch for me, and Twin Peaks especially. So I tried to outside of the falling, which is the Twin Peaks theme, I tried to divorce myself from that to try and give it the more space and hear her for the artist she is. A lot of the descriptors have been said already. It's haunting, it's atmospheric, it's got this ethereal feels slash mixed with like retro 50s doo-wop. That would be kind of the descriptor for her. She's got a great voice in terms of being able to deliver this dreamy notion of a bygone era. It's got kind of it's not all like kind of downbeat gentle type of music. It switches sometimes to some more jazz type of sounds, like on a song like I Remember. Rockin' Back Inside My Heart is more of like an upbeat kind of, it is a love song, but in that doo-wop style, and it works really well. It incorporates some
well, it's like they're love songs that make you both connect with being in love and all the good parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of like it's a love song. It makes you connect with all the wonderful parts of being in love, but also like the heartbreak or the bad things that could come out of love too. And that's, I think, why it works so well in Twin Peaks. It's like this beautiful song that gives you a sense of safety, but it's also was scored at times over scenes of death because there was a finality, and that juxtaposition was such an element of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of theme carries through. Something like a track on Into the Night. It reminded me of Twin Peaks, even though that song does not feature into it. It's a pretty low key song until you get this huge like big percussion part at the end that is almost like shocking, and it really like punches in and comes out of nowhere and throws you off. And the rest of the album is in the same vein. If you haven't heard kind of how she sounds, it's very distinct and dreamy, and it's hard for me, you said she joined the B-52s. It's hard for me to picture her being in that band after hearing this album, because this is so different from the B-52s, but I guess it's probably a testament to her vocal range that she's able to sing something like that.
And she would do wild stuff later. Like she'd do collaborations with like Pharrell.
Oh, wow.
And like different people, and just there were all kinds of different interesting side tracks that she did throughout the 90s and the early 2000s. So she had a very interesting career. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not as high on this album as John is, but it's enjoyable and definitely a night album for sure. That came to mind right away, and very distinct, and I think it'd take the kind of like right mood for me to be in this to listen to it again. But I'm glad I did, and it's just so distinct and unique and powerful in its own way that I appreciated it. So slight thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I am the one non-Twin Peaks fan here, so it didn't. I mean, I certainly knew the Falling was, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, oh, the Twin Peaks lady.
Yeah.
But that, but so I didn't have to like detach from that. It was interesting. I think it was interesting listening to that song just on its own in an album. It's still it's pretty cool, right? I like that the bass, dong dong,
Oh yeah.
So it's very very recognizable.
Which
but
I saw, Matt, is not a bass. It's just a down-tuned electric guitar.
Yeah, I was thinking like it could be something else. Like it could, who knows? There's a lot of synths on this record, so I wasn't. But it sounded like it's got a deep enough tone to pass as a bass.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have a ton to add in terms of how this sounds, because I think you guys hit on a lot of the things. I would say that a couple of things. There's a little Enya-esque nature to this. I think with a more stripped down Enya, a more I don't know, probably a more stripped down, quieter Enya. Not that Enya's like blasting stuff, but she's got a little bit more upbeat stuff than this, and this is definitely, like you said, a night album. It's very, like, for the most part, it's relaxing. There are a couple of moments, Josh, you mentioned that, with the drums coming in, and was that I Float Alone? Was that the song?
Into the Night?
Into the Night. Sorry. I Remember has a really interesting off-putting part where you're just like, takes you totally by surprise. It's doing this very chill, like you get this vibes happening, and it's kind of this really pretty thing happening, and then all of a sudden it throws in these like sounds. And when I first heard it, I'm kind of like looking around, like what's outside my window, like because it totally doesn't fit at all, and it's kind of interesting when music does that. You're hearing something, but you think it's totally like happening outside your window or in your house or whatever. And it's like, what's the dishwasher doing? Like whatever. But it's actually just like, it's this little thing, this little curveball she's throwing at you that doesn't really fit. It's totally layered on. It's not like in the rhythm of the music. It's just kind of there, which I don't know, keeps you on your toes a little bit. So I thought that was interesting. Some of the songs on here, because they're so relaxing, it did remind me a little bit of being at a spa. And I don't mean that as a bad thing, because sometimes it's like, yeah, that's really nice music to hear. Sometimes just this, like, the way the synths are playing, this kind of just holding this note for a while and then like changing it a little bit. And it's just this really
a
soothing
spa. Interesting. Yep. I had a very, and not only because of Twin Peaks, like
I would be very off.
I'll let you go, but I do feel the need to weigh a difference of opinion there. But continue.
I mean, it wasn't. Yep. No, I'm saying it parts. Like I thought, there's parts of like the world spins, right? I'm not saying it was just like this whole album I want to play at a spa, but I think that there were aspects of it that I was like, that part right there, like the way that the the synth was playing.
Of it, you're talking about.
What's that?
The calming nature it has.
Exactly.
At times.
Yeah. Because there's plenty of I mean, there's some things in here that are like, whoa, that took me by surprise. But there's plenty of in here that is relaxing and calming, and you let it wash, like all that stuff you're talking about, John, washing over you. I mean, that's the kind of experience that I would have like at a spa, without like kind of the more avant-garde stuff thrown in there. So I'm just saying it parts. That's all.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I really like this. I like the soundscape aspect of it, the night. The relaxing, aspect, the nighttime, the 50s doo-wop. You're right, like all those bands that you said. I thought it's like catnip in a way for me, and I think that this hones a lot of those things in there, but also, throwing in some weird things here and there that are unexpected and a little off-putting, and so I see. Yeah, I mean, I'm not as familiar with Twin Peaks, so I'm not juxtaposing this against that, but there's some complexity here that also keeps it. It's more than just that calming night music. It's it's very interesting. So yeah, it's hard not to be a thumbs up. It's very, I could see a lot of people get, this is not I would not say that this is a hard record to get into, and it's not an every time, anytime, any place type record, but yeah, for what it is, I did really like it. So I'm thumbs up.
Yeah, I think I might be higher on this than you guys, which is totally okay.
Yeah.
I would say I pretty famously am probably not a substance user. If it's your thing, I'm not judgmental either. Go for it. But I'm not like. But this has like almost like a narcotic effect on me. It's kind of like music as narcotics. Like
Yeah, I can see
this
that.
is one where like I knew one of the times I went to listen to this, I was like as in bed, not sleeping, just just in presence. And I know you guys say, and I get it completely, it's harder for you guys to create that time, right, during your day. But I'm lucky that I'm able to create spaces like that. And this is one where I put it on, and it almost was like I left my body one of the times I listened to it and just kind of went where the music took me a little bit. But I think I get what you're saying the more you explained it, Matt, with the spa, because there are things that sound like that. I think there's something that doesn't put me into full relaxation with this. It like keeps me vigilant in its way, and that's the only reason I'd claim it's like not totally like a narcotic, because it doesn't just give you this sweet idea of everything's going to be okay necessarily. There's like an angelic quality, but there's also a like menacing might be too hard a word, but like you never get fully comfortable. It's like you're in a dream
Yep.
and you're trying to figure out which is why of course it works perfectly with David Lynch. He has
Yeah.
like no direct explanations for anything, right? Like that's, and you can see, I mean, he was literally the person who wrote the lyrics for this, right? And then he and his musical partner what's it, Angelo
Badalamenti.
Badalamenti, right? Yeah. Badalamenti, yeah. They basically, this was like a soundscape they created, right? And she was the vessel to do it. I think originally what happened was they were going to get a song, they couldn't get it, so they were like, let's write a song similar to it, and they found her to come in and sing it for Blue Velvet, right? And that was Mysteries of Love, and then which is featured in the movie Blue Velvet, if you remember. And that, yeah, and that it was sort of like they were going to create Twin Peaks, and they were like, let's kind of keep this vibe going because it fits so perfect with our state. And so but I think even if I'd never watched Twin Peaks, this would have the same effect on me because similar artists have a similar effect on me. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It really hit well for me, and it also was a nice juxtaposition to some of the other stuff we listened to this week. So
Yeah, I think a word that I
really,
would use
like
to describe it is,
only
I was going to say the word that I would kind of use to describe it is like foreboding, because I agree that like, you don't know when something, like once that thing happens that you were totally not expecting, that's fair game for that happening throughout the rest of it. So there is a little bit of an unease, like what's going to happen next? When are they going to throw that? And it's not like it happens all the time, but that may even make it a little bit more, increase the apprehension a little bit more. But that it's kind of, I think that's probably what I would say is
it's like
happening a little
how
bit here.
it's like how they use classical music sometimes in film and stuff after violent scenes, and it makes it even eerier to hear like a beautiful piece of music after this awful sort of visual, or it's got a little bit of that vibe to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, everything. I agree with everything you guys are saying. It's almost like the epitome of like a dream, and that it can start out one way and then immediately go into like a nightmare, or some sort of disturbing unease element, and back again. And it's just kind of that shifting nature of that dream.
Well, and I rarely ever remember dreams, or everybody has dreams, but I rarely remember mine. But after I listened to this album, I definitely had a dream with the nightingale playing in the background of it. So it even did root in my subconscious. So it's like, yep, that tracks though, because if it's gonna happen, it's gonna be this type of music. So I find the same thing with trip hop, and we haven't really covered that much. Like trip hop gets inside my innards like that a little bit too, and kind of almost serves as a narcotic. So we'll talk plenty about that, but
Yeah. I think that wraps it up.